Friends, Romans, and countrymen, lend me your ear. Geo here, coming to you from Beyond the Veil once again. I'm sitting outside as I do every morning, and I'm watching my beautiful little kitties running around and playing. You've got Bastet over there, you've got Sekhmet behind the bushes, and Gypsy Kitty just crawled through, who is a neighboring cat, and we're babysitting her. We have to give her back on Saturday, though, and she's become such part of the pack. She is such a sweet, sweet, sweet little kitty. I don't want to give her back, but I think we're going to have to. But that's neither here nor there. I started asking myself, though, what are these little things? And people have asked, hey, are our pets organic consciousness? In my humble opinion, I have to ask myself a few questions first before I can make a determination like that. And I want to know what you guys and gals think in the comment section below. Please give me your knee-jerk reaction right here and right now. And then after you hear me out, leave another comment and let me know what you think about the reasoning after the fact. So, I started asking myself, are these organic consciousness? I've had pets all of my life. I had these two Chihuahua Dachshunds for 13 years, and when they passed away, they took a piece of my heart with them. And I didn't want any more animals because, I mean, they're like little tragedies just waiting to happen. But we have to enjoy and appreciate the time that we have with them. But they go way, way, way too quickly. So I understand how they are part of our family and how they are part of our hearts and how we take them into our homes and treat them like our children. And when we lose them, it's like losing a child. It really is. But I ask myself, are they organic consciousness? Well, if we are sitting in pods somewhere and we've projected our consciousness into this 3D matrix, would we project it into an animal? Perhaps we might. I mean, I remember a past life where Sheree and I were these little like lemur type things, and I remember crawling up the tree and opening up fruit and handing it to her. But I think that was like the Matrix alpha stage, you know, when we were just testing the Matrix. I don't think it's this far advanced into the game. I don't think we would come back as animals. And the reason for that is that animals really aren't that sovereign. I mean, they are to a certain extent, but the way that we treat them isn't necessarily always like we would treat another sovereign being. I don't think that any of you would take any of us, as in like any of you, as in like you as a singular and us as the whole, take any individual out of the group of Beyond the Veil and say, you're going to stay in this house, you're not allowed to get in the refrigerator, you're not allowed to open the door, and you're going to stay in the house for the rest of your life. I don't think any of us would do that. Therefore, we really don't treat them as sovereign as we like to believe that they are. So on that note, would we come back into bodies that are less than sovereign as we are in the real world? And especially if we come in here to try to affect and provoke some type of change, wouldn't we want to be able to open that front door and get out? Wouldn't we want to be able to open the refrigerator, get on an airplane, go to the other side of the world if necessary, innovate, create, you know, do all of these things instead of just sit around and hunt mice and then work in the spiritual? So I'm going to get to that as well. But do we want to do that? Do we want to come back and potentially be a dog that's tied to a tree for its entire life with its collar growing into its skin because the collar's been on there so tight for so long, and not be able to take that collar off? I don't think so. I don't think we would choose to do that. What I think these things are number one, they're helpers, and number two, they are what I call programmable consciousness. The reason, in my humble opinion, and let me know what you think about this in the comments, please, the reason why I think that we see ourselves in them is because they are us. That we have imprinted our own consciousness onto them as soon as we get them as small babies. And that's why when you get like a rescue animal or something like that, they're all messed up. And some of them can be rehabilitated, some of them can't, because you can still program your consciousness into them, and they become a part of you. And that's why when they go, it feels like a piece of our heart is taken from us, because we really have given them a piece of our heart. We've given them a piece of our heart space program, or our raw consciousness, or the code. That's a better word instead of program. We've given them part of our own code. But I think that's why you have so many different types of personalities when it comes to animals. Some of them are just sweet as can be. Some of them are extremely aggressive and scared of everything and everybody. Our babies, for example, they never hiss. They're the sweetest they can be. They're cuddle kitties for sure. Sometimes even when they're frustrated with me and I'm like, oh, I love you babies, I love you, they're like, oh, leave me alone. They don't scratch and they don't hiss. They'll push, but their claws never come out. I think it's because they've never seen us react angrily ever. Period. They have not known anger. They have not known violence. They haven't known any of that. As a matter of fact, since we got them, Sheree and I have found that we're arguing less, because now we're asking ourselves, well, is it important enough to make a scene in front of the babies? No, it's not. So we'll argue about it later, and then later never comes, because we just kind of forget about it. So it's really helped us in that regard too. But also I look at the world and I think to myself, this is a predatory world by design. The antelope comes through and it eats the grass. Then the antelope poops, and then the grass grows again. Then the lion comes over and it eats the antelope. This was all meant to keep the energy going. That's why you have the cycle of life and death. So the energy can keep moving. It can't be stagnant. Stagnant energy is rotten. It's got to keep flowing like water, especially because water is the essence of life. It's the building block of life. Water is the key, but water has to keep moving. If it's stagnant, then it starts to rot, for lack of a better term, and turn, and it's not a good life force if it's in a constant state of stagnation. So the Matrix was designed like this. But the Matrix is a little bit cruel in the animal world. Animals eat each other alive. Would we come in and with the potential of being eaten alive? Now, of course, we do, but as the dominant species of the Matrix, it doesn't happen very often. It happens, it happens, of course. I mean, I understand that people go like to Africa on safari and then get attacked by a tiger or something like that and get mauled alive, or a bear or something like that. We hear about it happening, but it doesn't happen to a large portion of human beings because of the systems that we have set up around ourselves and communities, and our own mind and our own innovations. But on that note too, I feel that these things are not only helpers on the spiritual level as cats are, but I think dogs play a very, very, very important role. I have always revered dogs because I've always believed that if it wasn't for dogs, we wouldn't have evolved as a species to get to where we are now. And people like to talk about veganism and all this stuff, and that's great, but it's kind of it's a hard truth that it's only in 2019 and in the last maybe 50 years that we even have the luxury of being vegan, because up until that point we had to basically eat whatever was available, and dogs would help us hunt, and dogs would also alert us of predators so we can kill those predators if they're trying to come and kill us while we're in a cave or something like that. So through hunting and through eating meat and eating animals, we were able to evolve to come to a point to where we can make the conscious decision of, we don't want to eat meat anymore. But it was a fundamental element of our evolution. So we have dogs to thank for that. And cats are spiritual animals. As soon as we had our first experience with the babies, they were probably, I don't know, maybe 10 weeks old. No, not 10 weeks. They were, about 10 weeks, maybe 12 weeks old, tops. Little bitty babies. We have an experience. We go upstairs. We didn't bring them in because we figured, well, they're kitties. We don't need to pull them into this space right now. Let them grow up a little bit. They came on their own. They jumped up on the bed and they both looked at us and they sat there like this and started purring. And I noticed as I started getting deeper into hyperspace, I was watching them, and they turned into these little like troll-like things. Their eyes started spinning around like this. A little antenna comes out of their head, and they start moving this antenna around, and they're just like these little, I can't even describe them, like little elf, gnome kind of creatures that they turned into, little furry elves. And what I think they were doing is they were creating an energy field, and they were creating a space and pushing us deeper into our experiences just naturally. They knew that's what they came to do. They came to do their spinning thing. That's what we say. We say, we have come to do our spinning thing. And with Sekhmet, there's the crooked tail, and I always say, you will know me by my crooked tail. But I think these are our kitties from Egypt. And recently the Lion Gate has been opened, and black kitties have been showing up everywhere. I mean, heck, our neighbor got a black kitty the same week that we got ours, and she's running around in the backyard right here. And her name is Gypsy, which is related to Egypt as well. But yeah, they just showed up, and like dozens and dozens of people just recently had black cats show up. I think black cats have an even deeper connection to the other side and spiritual powers. As a matter of fact, if you look at a couple different movies, both that off the top of my head, consequently, that star Keanu Reeves. Maybe Keanu Reeves knows something that the rest of us need to know. But in The Matrix, when he sees the black cat, that's when there was deja vu. You know, he was like, oh, deja vu. And they're like, wait, what do you mean deja vu? You saw the same black cat, or was it a different black cat? And they changed something within the Matrix when two black cats showed up. In the movie Constantine, when he goes into the spirit world and he's got his feet in the water, he's staring into the eyes of a black cat to make that connection. And I think black cats, that's why they've been revered in most cultures throughout, especially the Dark Ages, where they would say that witches would have the black cats. There's something interesting about the color black, which is why I always wear black, because black is a neutralizing color. It neutralizes negative energies. And not only that, but, you know, if my light's going to shine, I want my light to shine from here, not from what I'm wearing. I don't want you to be distracted by any of this or any body computer stuff. See what's coming from here, spreading outward. That's what I want to be known by. And that's what I want people to see. And I think that's why Beyond the Veil is a beacon, because we're all shining our lights from here, and others who also vibrate at the same resonance are also seeing that, and we're all getting together here at Beyond the Veil. But I think black cats are very special and very powerful. They were revered in Egypt, almost worshipped in Egypt, and we kind of raise our kitties the same way too. They can do whatever they want in the house, short of pooping and peeing in the house, but they can do whatever they want. If they want to go counter surfing, they can go counter surfing. That's when they get up on the counters and walk all around. I mean, we keep some little, they're wipes, Clorox wipes, and we just wipe down the counter right before we eat, right before we put food on it, right before anything like that. And we actually keep the house actually even cleaner by letting the cats run around wherever they want, because we know that anything we do, we have to wipe the counters down or something like that before we eat or before we do anything. So it's actually helped instead of done the other way around. But yeah, we let them do whatever they want. They sleep in our bed, they eat whatever we eat, you know, unless it's bad or poisonous for cats, and they get treats like multiple times a day. I mean, you know, there's Sekhmet's up in the tree right now, and she's watching the geese fly by, and yeah, they can do whatever they want. I come out here in the mornings though, because let me know what you think about this, because it's controversial, and I want to know your opinion on raising cats. Some people say indoor only. As a matter of fact, if you go to the SPCA or anything like that and try to adopt a cat, if you don't say it's going to be an indoor only cat, if you say it's going to be indoor and outdoor, they won't adopt the cat to you. Most people won't adopt cats if you tell them it's going to be an indoor-outdoor cat. So what do you think about that? Give me your knee-jerk reaction in the comments right now, please. Now, I want another comment here in a moment, though. I want to know what you think about this idea. You know, these creatures are not our prisoners. I have been in places where I have not had access to the sun and not had access to the ground or outside, and I haven't touched grass or sunlight in a long period of time. It's not fun. It's not something that I would wish upon any being. Cats need to be cats. Cats need to feel the grass. They need to feel the sun. As a matter of fact, right behind us is a small little hole next to that birdhouse that they catch mice through. We have a field right behind us. And at first I felt bad for the mice, but then I started asking myself, well, what's going to happen here in a couple of months? Well, actually a couple of weeks now, that it's going to get colder and colder and colder. What are those mice going to do that are in that field as soon as it gets cold? They're going to try to find somewhere warm. Our house is warm. They're going to come over here. If she's catching them and killing them before they have a chance to come over here, she's actually doing what the spirit of Bastet is all about, protection of the home. Her name is Bastet, as a matter of fact, Bastet and Sekhmet. Bastet's the hunter. But she's protecting the home. She's protecting the home from hantavirus, from little things walking around. She's protecting the food. She's protecting everything. Why would I take away her natural instinct and desire to want to protect? She kills all of the praying mantises that are around. I've never seen praying mantises before until she caught one. She chases dragonflies. She killed one of the birds one time, though, and I explained to her, I said, Bastet, the birds are our friends. You can't kill the birds. They've never caught another bird or killed another bird. But as you can see behind me, that birdhouse has some white PVC pipe to keep them from being able to go up. Now, here's the flip side of the coin. We have eagles, we have hawks, we have falcons that fly around here. I haven't seen an eagle here in this area. I see them more towards the north, but here there are two huge falcons that fly around overhead, and I see them scouting in the backyards looking for something. We're surrounded by forest over there, forest over there. As a matter of fact, there's a nice mountain over there. I wish I could get it in the shot, but the camera doesn't pick it up. But I understand that there's a risk for them to be snatched up by a falcon. As a matter of fact, I was sitting in that kitchen right behind me, making something to eat, watching them out of the window. And right there next to the birdhouse, a little baby falcon popped up and was staring Bastet down. It was a baby, because you can tell the babies, they don't have fur, or they don't have feathers on their feet. And it was this cute little thing, but I could tell it was scoping out Bastet like a little predator. And up until that point, we were letting them outside by themselves because it's a plastic fence, they can't get out. But I realized, well, if we have such threats from outside, from up there, and they have the potential to come in here and land on the fence, well, then I need to be out here with them when I bring them outside. So I take an hour or 2 hours every day to sit outside. That's why I make these videos, because I'm sitting outside supervising the cats so they can be cats, so they can play in trees and they can do all of this. But I think there has to be some kind of balance there between letting them be cats and keeping them safe. We're so worried about keeping them safe that we forget to let them be cats. They have to be cats. And then, we feel bad for the mice and for all these things that they hunt, but realistically, that's what cats do. So where is the balance there, ladies and gentlemen? You let me know in the comments section, please, where you think that balance is. I think I found it to an extent. I wish I could let them just run around our backyard. I mean, it's our backyard. We should be able to let them run around. At the next house, though, I'm going to make sure we either have a plastic or stone fence, and I might even put some netting up so we can just let them loose in the backyard. They can run around, they can hunt bugs and do everything that they do, but at the same time, nothing can come down and swoop them up. But it's a shame that we have to keep an eye on them like that to make sure nothing like that happens. But at the end of the day, if their lifespan is shortened, I would rather their life be much happier, filled with hunting and climbing and sunlight and everything like that, than for them to live 15 or 20 years inside of the house in the exact same place all the time. I think that would be horrible. That would be horrible. Another thing I think is horrible too, and no judgment to anybody out there. That's not the point of me saying this. The point of me saying this is just to get people to think about this. The little bells on the collars. I think that's torturous. Imagine if you had a little bell on your collar and you couldn't take your collar off and you were walking around and everywhere you went you had this little ringing bell. Every time you moved you had this little ringing bell. If you have a scratch you got a little ringing bell right there, right next to your ear. They say, well, after a while they get used to it, but no, we take the bells off the collars for sure. So think about that. Think about taking the bells off your cat's collars. But anyways, back to the point here. They're spiritual and they're our friends. But at the same time, we get energy from them. And we don't really realize this. See, everything in the Matrix is an energy source. And I feel that the Matrix was set up the way that it is, not only to keep a perpetual cycle of motion, but at the same time to have energy sources within the matrix that we could utilize. You know, we can go to a tree and we can pull an apple. But what if we're traveling across a large area of the matrix and we don't have any trees where we're traveling? And we're in a place where we don't have access to any kind of those energy sources or anything like that. Well, then what do we do? Do we just starve? Do we just die and that's it? No, I think that there are energy sources that move around animals. And that's why we hunt animals. But I think it comes down to intention too. You know, as I said before, I think the definition of evil is when you derive pleasure from doing harm. We got to do what we got to do in the Matrix. We got to kill an animal every once in a while for survival. Luckily, we don't now in this day and age because of factory farming. But factory farming is an abomination in and of itself. Don't even get me started on that. I agree with the vegans about that 100%. But without all these systems and structures and everything around us, we wouldn't have to do what we have to do to survive within the Matrix, and it's perfectly fine. I see no problem with that. They do that as well. Everything in the Matrix does that. So, we're actually getting energy from them. When we cuddle them, when we pet them, when we love them, they're giving us their energy, and we're giving them energy as well. We feed them, we take care of them, we do all of that. Sometimes, and this is a hypothesis that I have, because I have two stories to share with you here. Sometimes they give their lives for us, and not only, you know, to protect us in the physical way, but they have spiritual abilities. So let me share a story with you that happened to me, and Sheree actually has a similar story as well. My dog Skittles, little dachshund Chihuahua. My heart started to hurt really bad, and I couldn't breathe. And I remember I was going through this period where it was just hurting. I couldn't breathe, and I'm like, what the heck is going on here? I could feel something was wrong with my heart. This was about 15 years ago. And then all of a sudden it got better. But Skittles got congestive heart failure, and he died. And when we took him up to the mountain and put him down, I realized that I had put him down way too late. I should have put him down way earlier than that. I should have let him go because he was suffering more than he was happy. And when you get to that tipping point of more suffering than happiness, it's time to let them go. But I can't go back and change the past. But I let him go. But I think he took on that heart stuff for me. And I think that they have the capability of doing that. Sometimes that's their role, is to come here and help us move along in our journey, and sometimes they're willing to give up their own lives. The Native Americans believe this about the deer that they would hunt and the buffalo that they would hunt. They would thank the spirit, they would thank the animal for giving its life force up to allow the other life forces to continue and to sustain. Sheree had a cat named Babette, and Sheree got really sick. She actually, her infection got to be turned into scarlet fever. I don't remember the precursor for it, but it turned into scarlet fever. Babette came and sat on her chest, and Sheree got better. And then a few months later, Babette died. She had cancer through her entire body, unexplained completely. I think Babette took that upon herself and allowed Sheree to continue moving through this matrix, and that was that animal's sacrifice, that animal's role. It played out its role, just like we all have roles and we all have missions that we do here. That was that animal's role and that animal's mission. So they can heal us, and they can take energy away from us, and we give them energy, and we love them, and we feed them and do all of that, and they give us energy back in return every time we snuggle them. I mean, heck, every time we look at them, we get an oxytocin release, and we smile and we laugh. And you know, if you're having a bad day, just go look up some pictures of some baby animals, and it will completely change your outlook, because it's changing the brain chemical, the brain makeup in your brain, by allowing more oxytocin and things like that to release. So they each have a role, and they each have a place. And some of them give their life force for our energy and for the energy of other animals to keep the matrix in a perpetual cycle. But back to the idea of programmable consciousness, while I wrap it up here, you can also program them in a very bad way. I'm sure people have seen very bad animals, and I think it's because their people have had very bad consciousness, and they have programmed that bad consciousness or bad code into that animal. And sometimes you can take animals and you can rehabilitate them, and you can imprint your own code upon them, but sometimes you just simply can't. I think the most powerful aspect of understanding programmable consciousness versus organic consciousness is that we can start looking at our loved ones, our animals, our fur babies in a different way. A lot of us will tend to look at an animal that's not acting right and saying, well, what's wrong with it? It must be something wrong with it. There must be something wrong with it. I need to get rid of it. I need to do this. I need to do that. Oh, well, that's just a naturally mean cat. But in actual fact, if we start looking at them like programmable consciousness, what happens? Then we start looking at ourselves and saying, well, we have this animal that's not acting right. It's mean, it's aggressive, it's this and that. There's nothing about that animal I need to change. There's something about myself that I need to change. And like the revelation of the NPCs, when we're interacting with NPCs, you look at NPCs around and think, well, there's nothing about that NPC I can change, because I can't even change it. I have to change the way that I interact with that NPC. And again, both concepts, the non-player character and the programmable consciousness, they both turn everything around and point it right back at ourselves and give the power back to us. We have the ability to change things. We don't have the ability, they don't have the ability to change. We have to change the way we interact with them. And it brings back personal responsibility and power. So remember that. These little things are programmable consciousness. And you can program them in the most loving and beautiful and healing ways, or you can program them in the most evil and horrible ways. Any way it goes, it's not that animal's fault. It's our own. It's our own responsibility. And that's the whole point of this video. So on that note, kiss the one you love right now. You never know when the last time is going to be. Kiss your fur babies too, because they love it. And they love it when you snuggle them, and they love it when you imprint yourself upon them. But at the same time, we do give them a piece of our hearts. And remember that the time we have with them is very sacred. And when they go, they really do take a piece of our hearts with us. They really do. So kiss the one you love right now. You never know when the last time is going to be. And we'll see you even further beyond the veil.